Hello. Today we are going to look at the LGBT community and the relationship it has with the athletic community. As professionals in the field of psychology, it is important to be familiar with the various cultures that we will likely be coming into contact with. The openness of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT community has continued to grow in recent years, including making a presence in the world of athletics. You're probably aware of the 40-year anniversary of Caitlyn Jenner's, formerly Bruce Jenner, gold medal in the 1976 Summer Olympic Games. Her presence in both the LGBT community as well as the sporting community in the last year has created a lot of discussion for how to handle the presence of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender individuals in the world of athletics. Prior to this world-famous celebrity's decision to come out, the need for attention concerning athletes, coaches, and others was still present. In this presentation, I will introduce several qualitative studies and several quantitative studies that will explain why this topic is relevant, how practitioners can apply the information shared to their work, and how future researchers can adjust and apply different methodologies to this area. Quantitative examples. In her work, An Investigation of Sexual Orientation, Attitudes, and Behaviors of College Athletes, Green developed a 43-question survey, Green 2010. This survey was designed to measure the relationship between independent variables such as gender, race, ethnicity, and religious affiliation, and the expressed attitudes and behaviors toward gay, lesbian, and bisexual college athletes. This study was specific to the Atlantic Coast Conference and therefore has limitations for generalizability. What she found was that while the existence of anti-discriminatory policies are in place for many organizations, there was a high number of male respondents that declared themselves to be homophobic. On a different note, the results of her study suggested that sexual prejudice among college male athletes is fading, a statistic that you will see is supported by other research. In this study, the chi-square analysis were conducted to measure if the existence of a relationship between the independent and dependent variables existed. One result of significance included mannerisms to demonstrate sexuality, either masculine or feminine depending on gender. Berrigan, 2015, explored gender schemas and how they influence an athlete's decision to play particular sports. Stereotypes to the femininity of women and the masculinity of men play a role in determining participation to various sports. For example, ballet is typically associated with women, while football is typically associated with men. Using the BIM Sex Role Inventory, BSRI, Athletic Identity Measurement Scale, AIMS, or AIMS, the Lesbian Homophobia Scale, LIHS, Berrigan conducted her research and tested for validity using t-tests and chi-squares. What she found was that there was not a difference in sport participation across gender groups. Lesbians who identified with a feminine gender schema did not significantly differ in sport participation. Lesbians who had higher athletic identities were more likely to play sports. The study did not find a relationship between internalized homophobia and sport participation or internalized homophobia and athletic identity. Because stigmas can have such a negative effect, both emotional and psychological, it is in the best interest for consultants to be aware of how stereotypes and stigmas are playing a role on the individual they work with. Other quantitative studies, such as Bush, Anderson, and Carr's The Declining Existence of Men's Homophobia in British Sport, 2012, and the Student Athlete Climate Study Final Report, Rankin et al. 2011, support the conclusions made by Bargan and Green that negative association with gay athletes is slowing down. The declining existence of men's homophobia in British sport used this survey to collect data concerning homophobia in British college athletes during their first week of their first year and their last week during their last year in college. Their work showed that those with strong athletic identities who came into college with more negative attitudes toward homosexuality had shifted by the time they were finishing their educations. Their attitudes had become more positive. These findings again agree with other studies that homophobia and negative perceptions of homosexuality is making a positive shift. The strengths of these studies are that they can all be reproduced. Other researchers could potentially follow the same guidelines and compare findings. However, the limits of these studies are that they cannot be generalized. The researchers did not gather enough information from various geographic locations, i.e. Britain, ACC, to assume that it would be true to other LGBT communities as well. They also did not provide the opportunity for participants to clarify their answers to the surveys given. Qualitative examples. Melton and Cunningham 2014 explored the experiences of sport employees who identified as LGBT, taking advantage of the opportunity to have a more in-depth understanding of the topic. The researchers chose to use a multi-method qualitative approach. They used observation, interviews, and analysis of secondary documents sources, which allowed for a more holistic picture of the experiences of these employees. Researchers suggested that the positive atmosphere associated with sport work environments, i.e., higher self-esteem, life satisfaction, and social acceptance, countered the negative effects of identifying with a, quote, devalued social identity, end quote. Melton and Cunningham, 2014, page 31. Most of the qualitative research that I came across followed suit and conducted interviews with their participants. They used techniques such as coding, cross-verifying, and some spending extended amounts of time with their participants to verify that the results were valid. Eric Anderson was involved with several of the studies, so his familiarity with qualitative research and this specific topic allowed him to recognize patterns and compare cohorts. Ultimately, it was found that gay and lesbian athletes are being more accepted as time passes. Kean and Anderson, 2009, Anderson, 2011, Anderson and Bullingham, 2013. However, there is still a lot of room for growth as we dive deeper and recognize eating disorders correlate with lesbian athletes, Guthrie, 2005, and body dysphoria is associated with gay men, Filia and Drummond, 2014. Kean and Anderson's research, 2009, following John Amiaki's coming out, the first former NBA player to announce that he was gay, found four major themes arise in their textual analysis of newspaper articles across the globe. What they found was 1. Sport reporters maintained that the locker room is still no place for gay men. 2. Sport writers commented on whether sport was less inclusive than the mainstream culture and whether sport thus served as a social anchor on issues concerning men's homosexuality. This particularly focused on comparisons of the Black Civil Rights Movement and the integration of sport for openly gay men. 3. Sport reporters commented on whether Amiaki was a coward for not coming out while playing and whether he was simply taking advantage of a capitalist system to promote his book. 4. Reporters noted respect for who Amiaki is and for his bravery in outing himself. Kean and Anderson, 2009, page 806. As with other qualitative research, the findings are subjective and up to interpretation. However, to minimize bias and false interpretations, coding and multiple researchers were utilized. Future studies and application. According to the Student Athlete Climate Study, 3,480 or 43% of student athletes that participated in the study identified as women. 4,531 or 57% identified as male, and 7 participants identified as transgender. Of this population, 5% identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or questioning. Due to the sensitivity and small percentage of the LGBTQ athletic community, I fall in favor of using qualitative methodologies over quantitative. There is a necessity for those who choose to participate to have a chance to further explain their opinion, experiences, or any other aspects that should be heard. Since qualitative research offers observation, structured, semi-structured, and open interviews, as well as data analysis, I feel that this side is better suited to help understand the relationship that sport and LGBT communities share. The options for researchers to validate their work with multiple researchers, coding, etc., can provide researchers the opportunity to avoid subjective and biased results. To those who may work with the athletes who identify as LGBT, you should keep a positive perspective of the limited amount of research concerning this topic, many of which show positive outcomes. The need for far more research in this area is at a high demand. If well versed, I would suggest using mixed methodological research. The opportunity to have data combined with the insight of interviews may allow researchers to develop a more transparent understanding of why athletes are still hesitant to be open about their sexuality and continued harassment towards LGBT individuals despite the progress that is taking place. Thanks.